Hello, everyone. And we are starting this Mother's Day week, or at least the week prior, celebrating all things mother. And what better way to do that than to have a founder of a beauty company that started it from the inspiration of her mother? Today we have Margarita Arriagata. Did I
Yes.
pronounce it right? Okay, good. She's the founder of Valdé Beauty. And this is a divine lipstick brand. It launched in 2020, if I'm not
End
mistaken.
of October. Yes.
And I am really excited to talk to you because I am also often inspired by my mother. So we've had conversations before, and I love the story of your mother. I feel like she's a kindred spirit. Could you tell us a little bit about her and her sense of style and beauty and what she felt was beauty?
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story. But my mother was the inspiration behind the creation of this brand because she, for as long as I can remember, since I was little, I always remembered her wearing lipstick. Lipstick was armor to her. And it was profound for me in the last few years before she passed away that she suffered from dementia. The fact that, well, she did not remember me, she always remembered how lipstick made her feel. And so it was so profound that she would perk up and she'd pucker up and get ready for application that I wanted to pay homage to her. But when I reflected back on her life, I named a shade after her, which is named ebullience,
Bullion.
because she was so effervescent in her life. And really the narrative about my brand is so much of what I learned from my mom, that she left. We were born and raised in Peru, and she left a country really wanting to be free and liberated. And what I witnessed in her is that she was so happy and comfortable being in her own skin, that she was a different woman. And that transcended, and it developed. I think it gave her the courage, it gave her the strength, it gave her the voice, and she was magnetic. She was just, and she was never resentful for anything, any of what she had experienced before.
I find it fascinating that you look at it as armor, or she looked at it as armor. And I know you named one of the lines of armor. I wonder, I mean, can you give me a little bit more on that philosophy? Because I understand it, like amongst my friends, when I have to put on my makeup for the day for whatever, for work, I'll sit down, I'm like, yeah, I'm putting my armor on. But lipstick takes a whole different level of that, depending on what color you're getting, but it does take a different level.
Yes, the bolder, the stronger the armor, right? It does take another level. um, I wanted to lean into this narrative around armor, because as women, we are evolving. And what my brand wants to do is to encourage women to really take this journey and immersing into their true essence, owning it, and feeling comfortable about who they are, which is not an overnight thing. It really is a journey. It really is an intention. And there lies the strength and there lies the purpose. But the fact is that everything that we do begins with an intention. And sometimes when we put on that lipstick, just the mere fact that you're putting that on is already an intention. So
Mm.
I think that this is why armor is lipstick is armor for so many women. But I also wanted to continue the narrative because we've got to move beyond having armor to cover up, right? And sometimes we do use armor to cover up and to shield behind. And the reality is, as women, we need to soar. The name of the design of this armor, it's actually called Soar, because we've got to let go. We have to drop the weights, the things that really restrict us from being who we are. And so I think I look at it as really celebrating warriorship, because as women, I do feel that we are warriors. So it is a celebration, but very much with the intention and lean into the fact that we do have to let go of those things that we shelter behind on and really soar, take flight and soar.
I definitely feel like it is interesting that you say that, because even now, looking back on what I just said, that, I put my armor on. Yeah, it's to cover up. Well, not cover up, but like to kind of deflect from some of the things that I'm not too thrilled about. But when I'm putting on lipstick, it's to like, it's my armor to kind of like go out there. I mean, how I can understand where your mother felt that that was her armor. How awesome.
She exercised such immense strength, resilience. I was amazed by all that she endured and overcame, and yet was so joyful. And I think that that is a place, where when you're finally comfortable and not defined by the external factors, right? Not defined by roles, not defined by, material things, but really defined by you knowing who you are, and feeling conquerous that way. I think that it really manifested itself in this love and generosity. And so she was magnetic that way. And the reality is, for me, this is the most important thing, that when you are in this place, you transcend the physical beauty. You just
Yeah.
would have, had you known my mom, as I think many women that are out there, you would go, she is beautiful. And you're not, when you're saying she's beautiful, you're not necessarily focusing on the physical aspects. You're focusing on that soul, that personality that is just being unleashed. And so that's really why, I developed this brand.
So going back to this company that you were inspired to make by your mom, and I'm going to get to the design, because I have to say the designs and the packaging just is delicious, but we're going to get back to that. I first want to talk about the actual lipsticks. First of all, I love the names that you have for them, because they are such a celebration in the sense of strength.
Yeah.
Um, which I didn't, you don't think about those names, like, you get the lipstick names, but I mean, there is definitely a thematic that really does feel great. But I want to talk a little bit about your decisions on what kind of ingredients, what were the things that you needed to develop to make the right lipstick, because it is a very specific, honed in thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you're having a whole big line of different products. It is only lipstick. So I would imagine you were looking for something rather remarkable.
Thank you. And remarkable is the perfect word. Listen, I'm super humble in realizing that the world does not need another lipstick brand. And there are so many beautiful, beautiful brands out there that I admire. I created this brand because I wanted to celebrate what beauty means to us. Obviously, it meant a lot to my mom, so much so that she remembered how lipstick made her feel despite having dementia. And so, what I wanted was to ensure that every aspect of this brand, from the packaging, for how you open the package, how the product feels in your hand, that shape in your hand, including the formula, would be an experience. And so, well, I'm certainly super aware that matte formulas is, what's popular out there, because, they don't transfer and they last, 18 hours. I wanted something that would make you feel a little vava boom the moment that you put it on. And it's, it's difficult to show. You really have to feel it. But once you put it on, I'm super happy to hear from people that have experienced a formula. It really does, it does have that sensoriality. And so, to set off to create a formula, that baseline for me needed to be clean from an ingredient standpoint. I think it's, I don't talk about it much, because I think that the industry needs to move where all beauty is clean.
Mhm.
Nothing should be perceived to be toxic. Nothing. It's not like, well, here's the clean beauty and here's another segment. No, no, no. It all needs to be that way. And so for me, that was baseline. I felt exactly the same way about ensuring that all makeup properties have skincare ingredients,
Oh,
hyaluronic acid,
interesting.
hyaluronic acid. I think that all makeup products need to be able to offer something for your skin. I have a
Is
strong
that common to have hyaluronic acid in lipstick? Because I wouldn't know.
um, some brands, yes, many brands do. But I wanted to ensure that there was that, that in this sense, the balance of sensoriality as well as the hydration, how well does it moisturize, that you're feeling something that grips. So the ingredients was a super important aspect so that it would feel moisturizing, that it has botanical extracts. It is vegan, which I think it's super super important as well. It has no fragrance, so it is fragrance free, so that there would not be any aversion to allergies. But at the same time, we worked really hard on the experience, and so it's a creamy satin because I wanted something that would be timeless, and,
Yes.
and that would be moisturizing, creamy, but that it would have a little bit of a sheen to it. It has and to be able to do that, in a way that is lasts. And then it grips on your teeth, so the pigmentation is super super rich. That was, it took me about as long to create the armor as it did to create the formula. Because
So
for
the
me,
creamy satin is usually something that I mean, the matte obviously is something that, I mean, obviously it doesn't transfer as much, but it doesn't, usually it's not as moisturizing, correct?
correct, it's not as
So
moisturizing
the
at all.
satin, for those that don't know, one that is like the one that you have, which is the satin cream, that is more moisturizing, it has a little bit more sheen, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
I was gonna say, as for long lasting, I might have put this on 6 hours ago. So yeah, I'm lazy like that. I should reapply. I don't. So, but yeah, no, and then of course there's the high gloss, but the high gloss is probably, I mean, I don't know if someone my age would use it.
Hey, listen, I'm a proponent that you're as young as you feel, and it's really up to
Mm,
you, what shades or what formulas you decide to wear. But I wanted my first formula to be memorable, that you would
mm,
remember the experience, that it would be timeless, for the brand, and that it would really underscore that this brand is about how it makes you feel. Uh,
yeah.
and so, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful formula.
Well, aside from the formula and the experience of that, the lipstick, it's wonderful. One of the great things about this, and this goes back to inspiration, I personally feel that it has, you can tell you put a lot of thought for female empowerment into this particular product, everything from the names and to the design of the packaging. What was the process in this? Where did you find an artist? Is this something that you designed yourself? Like, what inspired you for it? The wings in particular?
Yes. Well, first the shape, because the shape is inspired by the female form.
Mm,
And so I didn't initially know what I wanted, other than I wanted something that was emblematic and that would celebrate the woman. And so typically what you have with most lipsticks is a tube or a square or hexagonal, something that looks like this. And we like this, and this is absolutely
the
fine.
tube is familiar. It's something we're comfortable with.
But I wanted something artistic and emblematic, and I wanted to, the inspiration was combining the bullet that you have on the lipstick, which I think projects strength, with the femininity. And so hence the reason why you have this opening that projects the shape of a bullet in the front of the armor, surrounded by this by the shape, by this, female torso inspiration. And so for me, it was symbolic of representing this aspect as women, that we don't have to sacrifice our femininity, yet we're very very strong. And so we
And on top of that, they have those beautiful wings, which, always thinks of, setting us free, which feels quite wonderful. Now, the other thing that I love about this is that, like you said, it is refillable too. So you can, get a different color, like say 3 different colors, and then be able to put it into the case. And I was saying to Margarita at one point that it reminds me of a different time, a different generation where some of our makeup might have been a little bit more artistic, that compact with the beautiful, inlay of artistic inlay. Or I was even saying my grandmother had on in her boudoir, had her beautiful perfume bottles, and they all were pieces of art. And I love the fact that I don't think too much about makeup and having something that looks like an art piece. I like having beautiful things near me.
I felt that the cosmetic products are worthy of that similar type of experience that you see with perfume bottles. And so I created something that is emblematic, but it also has an important sustainability aspect to it because it's artistic enough, it's an investment, but something that you will keep forever and that will
Mm,
have intrinsic value and will have meaning, either because what the reason that it meant when you bought it, or if you gifted it to someone else, or who you received it from. And it also places the cost value where it belongs, because in traditional lipstick development, the larger portion of the cost is really in the case, but what you
mm,
really use is the formula. And so you're able to refill, it places the value where it belongs. You're able to refill at a very competitive price for a very luxurious formula. And the Armour then becomes an investment that you can then wardrobe and choose that if you're going to a wedding or if you're going to a brunch, which Armour would suit you best.
I love that because sometimes at those weddings you need a armor. Let's be real here.
You're absolutely right. But if you're gifting it to someone, which I think makes for a beautiful gift, that you're thinking about that someone and thinking, which Armour best personifies. The wings for me was very important because, in addition to the fact that it is about taking flight and soaring, it is also a nod for me on the collective us, that individually as women we are a feather, light as a feather, but together we are a force, and that for me was super important.
I love that. Can you imagine what your mother would have thought to think that such a whole beauty line was inspired by her and it was for women's empowerment? What would you think she would do?
I listen, she was proud, regardless of me doing this. She was already proud before. But it means a lot to me to be able to honor. I think that all women intrinsically inside of us, we're all mothers, whether you
Mm,
are biological, whether you have a biological child or not. I mean, hence the reason why we call, whether it's a saying is, Mother Nature. I think we have that in us.
mm.
And so for me, it is an important celebration of all women and our potential, all that we can do, particularly together. And I think that there's no better time than now to really band together, and I think that we're part of the solution for many of the macro aspects that are happening in the world. And so my mission is really to encourage women to really own their true selves, and soar.
I'm kind of curious, like from here, I mean, granted, I know that Valdé Beauty was launched last year. It's lovely. So I'm kind of curious, where would you go from here? I mean, would you be expanding on different options for lipstick? Or I'm kind of curious if you're going to go outside of lipstick, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it took a while to kind of develop everything, but it's exciting. And I love the idea that there's such a wonderful message in all of this.
Thank you. I'm going to stick with lip for a while. in the immediate future. I don't think that far out because you never know what the circumstances are. But I do
True.
think that it is a category, despite the fact that there is a lot of offering out there. I think that there's still a lot to be mined, quite honestly. So my intention is to really allow women to have their investment, to have a return on the investment. So I'm going to
Mm,
create more armors,
love
uh,
it.
more armor designs, and I really want to explore what's not being explored. You know, different finishes and different looks, still in the same shape. I may consider different shapes in the future, but now giving different options in price points, some higher, maybe some lower. And that way, that if you've invested in your lipstick, you have your refill, you can now really dress it up for a lot of
I
different.
love that.
And if you perhaps didn't like the wings, maybe you'll like some other, motifs in the future. So I really want to exploit that and provide that level of variety. And yes, I do want to explore. I'm super passionate about skincare and treatment, and particularly the treatment of lip, which is something that we don't talk about a lot. But
Mm.
the reality is, this is next to the skin in your eye, the skin on your lip is super, super fine. And we don't realize until it's too late, hence, hence the lip filler movement, that, if you don't take care of your lips, they will shrink. They will shrink. And it's such an
Yeah.
important exclamation point to our face. And so I absolutely want to explore formulas and different formats. So yes, I think there's a
That's
lot.
pretty exciting. I mean, for our listeners that don't know, she has an extensive background in beauty. And I do feel like you've probably been exposed to a lot of different brands and everything. Was there anything that you felt as though inspired you as you've gone into your journey? Like, were you sitting there thinking, oh, I've worked with all these wonderful brands, even philosophy that made you feel like, hey, this is something that I believe in?
Well, I never really had plans to create a brand,
Hmm.
but there is the perspective because I grew up on the retail selling floor. I have tremendous amount of empathy for the customer. And of course, I spent 11 years at Sephora, as head of merchandising and eventually chief merchant. So I really could think hard about those white space opportunities, right? What are we not doing enough of? And the reality is despite the fact that there's a lot of offerings out there, if you did not know what you wanted and you tried to figure out, how do I go navigate this lipstick category space, it's super overwhelming. It really is. If you walk into a store, and you're looking at a presentation from one brand, I mean, and you're looking at lots of lipsticks that are eye candy, they're certainly beautiful. But if you think to yourself, well, I want a red, but I want it to be a little bit more bluer, and I want it to be matte, but a little bit hydrating. How would you even go about? Where would you start? Where
I'm
would
so easily overwhelmed.
Right? Yes. Hence the reason when you have cast members and sales associates and beauty advisors, but often you want to look on your own. And
Mm,
so I was inspired by the fact that this category is difficult to navigate, and perhaps I can educate the client digitally on how to navigate it, because I can iterate just on formulas. You're not necessarily
mm,
worrying about the case. I can iterate on formulas and I can iterate on shades, so that if you're looking for creamy satin, you're looking at a matte, it's an organized way to navigate the category, which I think is an opportunity. And I also think it's as I said earlier, I think it's an opportunity to really put the value where it really matters in a sustainable way. Because sometimes you may like a brand that has this type of a packaging, but they may not have this formula or shade that you want, and vice versa. You might like this formula, but you may not like the packaging. So those are some of the opportunities that I think I saw as I work with brands that I didn't think there was enough solution for.
That's really great. Especially, I would imagine being exposed to those many brands. It
Yes.
does probably make it a little bit easier to find those little pieces that maybe aren't connecting.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I love that. So when it comes to going back to the formulas and whatnot and having an understanding, what piece of information would you give women when they're trying to choose the right lipstick for them? I understand that like everybody has their own personal style. They should try different things and everything. But sometimes like it's like I said, I get overwhelmed very easily. It's sometimes hard. I kid around that I have my friends pick out my lipstick simply because I don't know. But there's like, have you ever been in a situation where you're at the store, you pick out a lipstick, because obviously you're not going to try it on right there, and you're just like, oh man, like this is not what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to people?
The first question I ask is, again, the brand is about experience, and my experience is, what are you in the mood for?
Mm,
What,
that's a good one, actually.
because lipstick, it's really how it makes you feel. There's enough brands that talk about, the skin tone, and and I think that
Mm.
that's important. But I would never advise you against a color. I mean, if you wanted to say, I want to wear green, I'm like, you go, girl. Let's do it. Let's try green.
Next time we chat, I'll have green on.
Because there are personalities out there that really want to go there. And who am I
Mm,
to say, oh, no, no, that would not look good on you? No, no. If you are really owning who you are and you are feeling like, you know what, I'm gonna try this. I mean, listen, women wear black, women wear green, they wear
mm.
purple, and there's a personality for it, but it's their own individual personality. So I would say I would definitely start with, what are you in the mood for? Or is there an occasion? Is this, do you want something that you're going to wear day to day? Or is this, for work? And and what are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable? Do you feel like it should match your outfit? I mean, I will guide the woman or the individual, men as well. By the way, there are just so many men that have purchased my product that I'm super, super touched. And so the product is such that is transitional, but I would lead them and guide them, and really immersing, as opposed to being pragmatic and practical.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people fall. They go into the more pragmatic and practical, okay, maybe I'm speaking for myself. Let me get a nude because at least I know it enhances it a little bit because it's so overwhelming. And that's where I like what you have to say when it comes to what are you in the mood for? The truth is that sometimes inside of us, we're sitting here thinking, I feel like a red.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I might be wearing nude all the time, but I want a red.
and one of the shades, it's called Passion. And one of them is called Power. And I can't tell you how many women have said, I feel like power. I feel like power.
Mm,
Many of my content is, what do you feel like? Who are you? Are you mercy today? Are you resilient? I mean, one of my favorite shades is resilience, and it speaks a lot to me. It's what I have on today. And so I do think that's important. And I will say, I will always encourage anyone to try red. I think red is super, super experiential. And I do want to encourage women to come out of their shells, starting with you.
I know. I gotta say, like,
You.
red is scary.
Yes,
It's
red.
scary. You get too orangey, and you're like, you get too blue, and it's like, ooh.
No, no, I will tell you, yes, if you feel that it's that important, those undertones are important, yes, but I would always encourage women to try
Mm,
and not care so much about those undertones. It really is how you make it, how you feel. It's red is such an empowering shade.
yes, it is. I think it's almost like the epitome, and I think Yeah, it makes sense why people are a little bit intimidated by it because it is bold.
It is.
Oh, and goodness, there's a quote that you have on your website, and I'm hoping that you have it because it's lovely. And at this moment, it has slipped my mind, but it's about a lip print being like a fingerprint and
It
that
is
how unique it is.
you. It is absolutely unique to you. So the reality is that yes, each of our limb print is like our fingerprints. It is unique to you. And so I that you know that for me just speaks mountains, volumes, and how strong I feel that you just own your own identity and not place so much emphasis on the external pressures. Because if enough of us, I can guarantee you, if enough of us wear green, well, some people are going to go, oh,
I'm going to agree.
we're green.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, no, don't, sometimes it's because you're not used to it and it's about getting comfortable. But I can see you in a red. Like, I am
Ah!
so anxious to see you in a beautiful red. I don't care if it's an orangey red or a blue red, but I can tell you it's
I'll
going to
send you a selfie. I'll put on some red and send you a selfie.
it's going
I do think it's very exciting and it's very empowering
yeah,
because like I said, I think oftentimes women go to stores and it's valid. They'll sit there and say, ooh, you shouldn't be using that color. It doesn't go with your coloring. Ooh, this will work better. And we get guided in different ways. But to have someone say, don't listen to that, go for it, be bold, be bold. I love that.
explore.
Ex-
Again, this my brand is a balance of this narrative on the journey, which is a personal story of mine as well, because I was not like my mom. And unless you explore, I mean, I was the antithesis of my mom. I certainly have accomplished a lot. I've always been super insecure. I'm just a poster child for, being an introvert and, extremely reserved. And so this brand, the journey and creation of this brand, because I experienced so many challenges, I really experienced a lot of self-doubt, and I really questioned, my ability to see this thing through. And so for someone at the stage of my life who's finally coming into her own, who's finally beginning to own my voice and my point of view. I'm not there yet, but I'm in my journey of getting there. I don't want to dismiss the advice that you get from, because I think it's very, very valid. Should you choose, should you want, if that's what you want. But I also want to encourage you to explore
yes.
and get out of your comfort level. I had to get out of my comfort level in creating this brand. I did it because I'm impassioned. My passion is significantly bigger than my fear on sharing a voice that says, if someone like me, who's lived with fear their entire life, is journeying into embracing myself, and I feel empowered. The reality is no one empowers you. You can only empower yourself.
I
That
find that beauty is a very interesting, there is a very interesting correlation between um, how we're feeling within ourselves and what is showing outwardly. And in many ways, when you're being daring on those that are outwardly, I mean, it comes from within and you have to have that strength within. I think that it's a perfect parallel in
yeah,
many ways.
yeah, because I was always intimidated by other women. I was intimidated, I think, by my mom. I think I overcompensated and working hard, um, because I thought, I don't think I could go through what she went through. But the reality is, we don't know what we're capable of. We don't realize we have already such strong force. We're already so strong force without even tapping on your inner force.
Yeah.
And so that really is my narrative, and it has a very strong parallel to what I infuse in the development and the narrative of the brand.
And then once you get past the fear, then you can become more daring and fail sometimes
Yeah.
but there's growth in that, isn't there? There's strength in that.
I mean, I listen, this is the biggest risk professionally that I've ever taken. And I had to face the fact that this may not work. This may not work. But the bigger picture of that is, you know, some people call it failures, some people call it learnings. You know, the life is there's no end. There's no end goal because we're all going to move on at some point in time. Really, if we're not enjoying the today, the learning of today, this opportunity that we're having, you know, with each other, then we've missed the point. We've missed the point. And so I really, again, I embrace the fact that I was passionate about exercising this point of view, this expression, this artistic expression, my love for women, my love for the beauty industry, and not allow the fear to get in the way, independent of what the result might be. Because we got to
Right.
go there. We have to go there. We have to continue the journey.
Well, the more I get to know you, Margarita, though like I said, I do know that this was inspired by your mom, and your mom being a beauty inspiration, just an inspiration in and of herself. The more I get to know you and the more I talk to you, the more I see that this is more an inspiration from within, from you. You just reflect it. It is all reflected in you, and it's lovely. And I hope you have a wonderful week. And I am so grateful for the time that you shared your mother with us.
Thank you. And if I may say, Happy Mother's Day to all the
Oh,
women.
thank you.
To
We're going
all.
to enjoy.
We rock.
Have a happy Mother's Day, everyone.